Okay, we've gone through, and yesterday I went through the matter of the sufficiency of the notice of the meeting, and the meeting was properly adjourned last night until 7 o'clock tonight. It's now 10 minutes after 7, and therefore the meeting will be and hereby is resumed. We are now at Article 36 in the warrant, which reads as follows: to see if the town will vote to borrow or otherwise provide for a sum up to $3 million for the purpose of building a fire station, including original equipment, site improvements, and all costs incidental and related thereto, and further to authorize the treasurer with the approval of the select board to borrow pursuant to Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 44, Section 7, subsection 1, or any other enabling authority, said sum or a portion thereof for the purposes set forth herein, and to issue bonds and notes therefore, and further, to authorize the select board and other appropriate public officials to take all actions necessary to effect the purposes of this article, provided, however, that this appropriation and debt authorization be contingent upon passage of a Proposition 2.5 debt exclusion referendum under General Laws, Chapter 59, Section 21, C, subsection K, or take any vote or votes in relation thereto. The Select Board and the Finance Committee recommend passage of this article, and you should note that a 2/3 vote is required for approval. Is there a motion relative to this article?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, moved and seconded. You want to make a presentation?
Good evening. First of all, I want to thank you all for coming out. It's a pleasure to see so many people, regardless of what your thoughts are or votes are. It's just important to the select group to be able to get input from the residents of the town, so I really appreciate the attendance tonight. The Bernardston Select Board made a decision to explore further the proposal to construct an addition to the existing fire station after a review of the feasibility study submitted by Stevens Associates. The study explored several options, including a new station on other sites and options for adding on to the existing station on Church Street. The proposals were for a complete new station on an alternative site were determined to be cost prohibitive. An addition seemed to be the most cost-effective solution. The Stevens proposal explored adding on to the east and west sides of the existing station. The board determined that additions on the east side would be a detriment to the historic character of the Powers Institute building by obscuring the Church Street view. The addition on the west side of the building would require rerouting a culvert that is connected to a wetland and the stream that flows into the perennial waterway on the south side of Church Street. The Select Board hired Jablonski and DeVrisi architects to study the possibility for an addition to the existing fire station. An alternative solution to the previous design proposal was developed by JDA along with the Board of Selectmen and Fire Department. It proposed to add a freestanding apparatus room west of the existing station, connected to the existing station by a hallway that bridges over the existing culvert. The property to the west has been recently acquired by the town and may be developed to accommodate the needed addition in parking areas. I'm going to turn this over to our architect to explain the project, and then we'll, I'm sure, have quite a bit of discussion. I'd ask that we probably keep it civil, be respectful for each other, and have a good night.
Good evening. My name is Brian DeVries of Jablonski DeVries Architects. Thank you for inviting me here to present this project. I think this is the first opportunity that I've had to wear a tie in over a year. I had to go on YouTube for a refresher course in knots. Well, Stan stole some of my thunder on what I was going to say about this project, but I said Stan stole some of my thunder. Anyway, after considering the other sites, as Stan said, this seemed like the most economical solution because it utilizes existing property and the existing station. The town had acquired the additional property after the other studies were completed. So that meant that this was a feasible project. So we started off by hiring a surveyor to do a topographical survey of the property, to identify the property lines. We hired a wetlands consultant to establish the delineation of the wetlands and the riverfront area. This site, where is a great opportunity, also has some problems in terms of environmental issues, which are not insurmountable, but there are a number of hurdles that must be gotten over. A notice of intent will need to be filed with the Conservation Commission for the work that's intended in this project. This is the existing fire station to the right, which is about 2,500 square feet. The new fire station is about 5,500, and that adds 4 bays and service areas such as toilets, laundry, storage, HVAC room, shower, and then the front addition would be the administrative offices and meeting room. The site is raised. The new building floor height is about 2 feet above the existing fire station in order to control the stormwater drainage, which we have to do on this site according to state law. So all of the drainage, there's a retention pond at the top, and the drainage from the building and the site all head towards the retainage pond so that the stormwater can be retained and any sediment settle out of it before it returns to the natural drainage system, which is this stream that comes from the north and goes into a culvert between the two buildings under Church Street and across the park into the perennial stream. This site provides for 13 parking spaces and adequate room for turning radiuses for fire vehicles without having to turn around in the street or on Church Street like they do now to re-enter this existing station. So the cost, we've gone over the past couple of years, we've gone back and forth about configurations, and we feel like this is the most economical, compact solution to the fire department's needs for now and the future. The estimate that we arrived at is approximately $2.5 million for the construction, the design, construction, and ancillary costs in developing this project. I know your budget is $3 million, and that probably makes sense with the volatility of the materials market right now. and its insurance. So that's basically what I have to say. The structure is a steel, it's a pre-engineered steel building that is one of the most efficient ways to build a structure. The office portion has brick veneer that resembles the existing fire station brick veneer. We developed a public entrance on the southwest corner with a handicap parking spot and a ramp that's a very gentle slope. It doesn't require handrails. The area between the buildings is necessary to make sure that that culvert that's buried there can always be accessed for maintenance or replacement. And the connector between the two buildings is a ramp that has rails on either side at a 112 pitch. So, if you have any questions?
Peter Shedd, Fire Chief. One of the questions I heard asked earlier is why we were having the parking lot or the entrance of the vehicles go straight out, not directly to Route 10. That was one of my concerns for a couple of reasons. Along Route 10 here in front of the station on Church Street, there's a fire hydrant right there, and there's also a telephone pole that would end up being right in the middle of one of the bays. So to me, that didn't make much sense to have a telephone pole right in the middle of a bay of a fire truck coming out of the building in the middle of the night. Two, being able to make access and get into the driveway on the western side, it gets us completely out of the road and on Route 10. On the existing building, as you can see on the front of the building, we come back, we're washing our hose and cleaning our equipment. The hoses are quite often out into the travel lane, or they're pulled back up and you're washing them inside the station, which is not good either. So again, this gives a clear and a much more safer operating area in front of the station with that being turned, that quarter turn.
Sir? Need to come up to one of the microphones.
My question is...
First, if you can identify
yeah,
yourself.
Mike Townsley, 290 Brattleboro Road. My question is, are these floor drains here?
Yes.
Okay, it shows that draining into the proposed wetlands.
There's oil separators.
Okay.
Separators
All right, so that's my first question. So there's going to be a gas oil sand separator on the system. The second question is, the current septic system is 1970s vintage. Is that going to be used, or is there a new septic being installed?
For now, we plan to tie into that, but there was discussion.
Yeah, you gotta use the microphone.
The plan for the moment is that we would assume we could tie into that. There was discussion of pumping to the senior center system, but that needs to be explored when we get further into the project.
Okay, any other?
Kelt Grant, Church Street. I'm wondering how this facility will be heated and what system you plan to use.
I have priced out a heat pump system, a ducted heat pump for the for the smaller spaces, the offices and, toilet rooms, and a split system for the apparatus room that would be on the ceiling. And that is anticipating that you may have a solar installation at some point. The building is oriented for solar if there's a way to acquire it. I guess the MVP grant program will consider solar, so that's something to look at. This is just a schematic preliminary go at this, and it doesn't mean things can't change, but I like to design things that have the lowest possible carbon footprint, and I think a heat pump system with a solar array would be the least carbon impact of any solution I can think of.
Okay, thank you. Yes?
Hi, Brenda Hill, Brattleboro Road. I didn't see in the estimate, and I was just curious as to whether there was any consideration given to an exhaust system so that the men aren't breathing in the fumes. Okay.
We have included an exhaust evacuation system in the estimate.
Okay, thank you. Yes, sir?
Brian Herview, South Street. You said this estimate was about 2.5 million. Actually, it is 2.5 million. With the volatility of the market, I think that might be a little light, and I know the town's looking for 3 million, and I think that might even be a little light with the shortage of resin, steel, copper, fiberglass, just to name a few. They're harder and harder to get, and they're getting really expensive if you can get them. So, which leads to the next kind of statement / question. By authorizing the town to borrow $3 million, aren't you inviting contractors to then just bid $3 million?
Not if they want the job.
Yes, sir?
Roger Slocum, West Road. So I'm looking at the numbers, and I agree. He's at $3 million. What's the plan when we hit unforeseen conditions in the wetland and we go over? I understand this, but I want to know what the plan is. He just
Well, no.
said, well, the contractor's
Yeah,
going to want
okay,
the job.
but
I
what-
do the bidding.
Okay, but the way it works is you ask the question, then he has to come forward to the microphone and answer. You can't have a private conversation.
There is a contingency amount in the bid, and when we started out on this, we didn't have COVID and we didn't have tariffs, and all that stuff makes for volatility in the materials market, especially. So, the $3 million, it seems to me that should be adequate. No one can know until you go out to bid. That's the real test. And this is all preliminary stuff. It doesn't count how many steel studs are in here or how much drywall. Well, it does count the drywall, but there are a lot of components that go into the construction documents that give you a better handle on what the cost is going to be when you itemize those. And these are basically square foot kind of estimates at this point. But I have had several contractors look at these figures, so I feel fairly confident at this point in time that we could go forward.
Yes, sir, way in the back.
Ontario, 376 Brattleboro Road. Could you please clarify what the line item OH and P for 318,000 and change, please?
I didn't catch that. Overhead and profit.
Thank you.
Here you go.
And could you please explain what you said, overhead and profit?
What's that?
I didn't hear what you had said. You said overhead and,
Profit.
could you explain what that's about?
Well, overhead is the cost of doing business. It's all your office expenses, and profit is what you make on the job at the end when you pay all the bills and you have something left over. That's
That's towards you.
no, that's not me. I'm one of the costs, or I'm not. That would be if the next phase of this would be to hire the architect who's going to do the construction drawings, and that has to be advertised, and it's possible that we won't be the ones, so.
Very good. Thank you.
Yes, in the back again, or?
Good evening, Ron Fulton, 46 Fox Hill Road. I'm on the planning board with Chris. Assuming we agree to spend $3 million, how are we going to pay it back? Thank you.
We will be looking at possibly a 40-year loan. The information we have right now is that that would probably be at 2.5? 2.25. And over 40 years, that would make about 40 cents per $100,000 evaluation on your home, based on the current evaluation of the town. You know, the valuation of all the properties in the town changes almost every year. So I'm telling you what it is on the valuation today. Valuation goes up tomorrow. The per $100,000 cost goes down tomorrow. Infinitesimally, but down.
Can I add to that?
Okay, just a second, go ahead.
My mic on? Just want to add to that, we are trying to get a loan through the USDA, the United States Department of Agriculture. And that 40-year loan is a loan that, once we get it, it's locked. The interest rate will not go up. It also does not have any penalties for paying it off early. So we have an option, as if we get more revenue coming into town, through free cash and whatnot, that perhaps years we can pay more on this loan and not take as long as 40 years. If we don't get the USDA, we'll have to go out to a regular bank and get a loan through them. So we are working hard, and we also are still working on trying to get grants. If you've read in the paper like I have, our legislators are working, trying to get funding for fire departments and ambulance buildings and that type of thing, because we already know the schools and the libraries, you can get plenty of money for them, but you have a hard time getting the money for these other buildings. So we'll continue to work on that, and we'll continue to try to find ways to fund this other than taxpayers' dollars. We are still looking and working and trying to get the state to release the $100 million, the $1 million that they awarded us 2 years ago, and they have not released it, and we don't know if they ever will, but we are still working with them. We have our legislators working on it. We also have a lobbyist that is looking at it and trying to search and see where this thing has gone. So we're doing a lot of work behind the scenes as well. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, sir?
Mike Townsley, 290 Brattleboro Road. On the grant, I believe possibly the holdup on the grant is that they're waiting for plans. After talking with the fire chief, maybe the fire chief can shed some light on that. There is the $1 million grant, but they won't release it until the plans are done, is my understanding.
You are correct, and we're working on that.
Okay.
But we've been told that they pulled that million back, and that's why we're working on it, to make sure that it's still there for us to attempt to access once we have the final plans.
Okay, Chief, you want to add anything?
Yes, that was one of the stipulations in the grant. This whole thing was on shovel-ready projects. So unless you had a plan, all approved, all accepted by the town, ready to go, it wasn't even going to be looked at. So, I mean, if we're still interested in that $1 million, we need to have a set of plans to present to them to even get entered onto the table, to get into that conversation with them.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else? Any questions? Discussion? Yes.
Peter, I'm interested in, what's the problem with our present fire station? How come we just can't keep that?
We can, and it is part of their plan to keep it. The main issue, it was built in the early 70s, I believe, by Lee and Dean Builders, did a large share of that, along with some of the local help, along with the fire department members at the time. At the time it was built in the early 70s, and somebody correct me if I'm wrong, the vehicles they had in the fire station at the time was a 1941 truck and a 1952, I believe, or a 54. If anybody knows many trucks, the size of the trucks then to what we have in there now is probably doubled in size. So since 1972, the amount of calls we had per year, you're in the 30 range, low 30s. Now we're over 340 calls per year. So the call volume is greatly increased. The way we fight fires is different than what we did in the earlier years. Cancer is a big concern now with firefighters. One of the main problems is vehicle exhaust. As you can see in this one picture here, the existing station, there is no exhaust system to suck the fumes and stuff out of the building. So if you're in the office, the dispatcher or the officer or whoever's still in the building, or all the firefighters' gear is sitting in there, where do you think all that exhaust is landing? It's landing on all the firefighters' gear. It's landing on the tables. It's landing on the desk. It's landing on the paperwork. So every time we pick that up, we're putting them particles in the air and exposing the firefighters to more danger. Access into the building right now, we probably don't have 2 feet around the vehicle when you come into the station. And that's where the gear is hanging up. So when you get a call in the middle of the night and people are coming through the side door, there's usually a pig pile beside engine 3 in that first compartment bay, until someone opens the overhead door so other guys can come around and come in the front door. Even when we're working on the trucks on a station night or our equipment checks, there's hardly room to get between the 2 vehicles when they have compartment doors open from both vehicles. Firefighting is a hazardous condition, absolutely. But it's hazardous just for our firefighters to be in our station, or even to get in the truck to get to the fire. They're pushing cleaning gear and everything else. A little while ago, the state put out a grant for washing machines. They're called extractors. They're commercial grade, high-spun washing machines that help suck all the carbon particles out of your gear. They cost anywhere from $12,000 to $18,000. We couldn't afford that. We went out and bought the best residential commercial grade one we could afford. Then the problem is, where do you put it? We talked about getting a dryer. There isn't room to put a dryer in there. I caught heck from the state because I didn't apply for that grant to get a washing machine and dryer. Well, that's great. You're offering me money, but am I supposed to put the dispatcher and the radios outside so I can put the dryer and the washing machine inside? There's not a single closet in that existing building. No room for storage whatsoever. That's some of the issues. There's open drainage in the bottom of in that station. I can guess where that water drains to, but I can also tell you it's very illegal. That's supposed to have been taken care of years ago. It's still there. Nothing's been done. I've been pushing for the expansion for the fire department shortly after I became chief in the mid-90s. And here we are, 2021. I'm still in the same fight and same battle. And conditions have not changed a bit inside that station, other than what we have done within our own budget to try to improve things in there. I'm sure I'm missing some other things here. Bathroom facilities. OSHA, which Governor Baker signed here a year or two ago, mandatory for all public safety buildings. This is a great thing. We're keeping our people safe and protected by OSHA laws. Most of the fire department and police departments and highway departments in the state of Massachusetts fail to meet the minimum requirements of OSHA. What does that mean? Money. We could be fined at any time OSHA wants to come through and do an inspection on our building. How come you don't have this? This is an OSHA mandate. How come you don't have this? This is an OSHA mandate. And they're sitting there with their cash registers going ka-ching, 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 ka-ching. And there's going to be no option in paying it. When they come through, they're going to submit the bill to the selectmen and saying, here, these are problems and OSHA violations with your building in the town, and this is the fine. This has been known for 2 years. We're still in the same building. We need to address these issues for the firefighter safety and for the pockets and welfare of the people in town. Any questions? Did I answer any questions? Did I create any more?
Okay. Yes. Sir, if you can come forward.
Brian Herview, South Street. Pete, you have to custom make fire trucks right now, right? To fit in that,
yes,
to fit
yes.
in that existing station?
Yes.
And they cost more than regular state of the, right off the assembly line?
Tend to, yes, because it's custom made.
All right, that is all. Thanks. Oh, and on a side note, I believe in Marblehead, Massachusetts, if somebody's house catches on fire, the homeowner has to provide every firefighter that arrives with a jug of rum. We could do that.
Okay, yes. How big a jug?
Steve Nessenpower, Dewey Street. Rather than rum, how about gin? No. Chief, you stated that you get 340 calls per annum. Of those, are they all fire, or how many, in addition to the 340, how many calls for EMS emergencies do you get?
We do about 62% of that 340 are EMS calls.
Thank you.
Okay. Yes, in the back.
Hi, Mary Bancroft from Hales Crossing. Not a question, but a comment. I've watched this come before the town so many times, and this station has not met the needs of the department for years. And it's to the point of being a safety hazard for the firemen, and I think it's a disgrace, honestly. It's embarrassing that we haven't done better by the fire department by this point in time. And I don't have a lot of money either, and nobody wants to see our taxes go up. I know it's always comes down to money, and that's just the way it is, but I think we really need to step up to the plate and vote for this and put this through and get our firemen the safe station and the working conditions that they need and deserve. Thank you.
Okay, anybody else? And if I don't call on you, let me know, because this is like Fenway Park. It's got a lot of obstructed posts. Yeah, go ahead, Chief.
Okay, just another comment in regards to a number of calls. I'm very proud of the members of our fire department. We have a very aggressive group of firefighters. And that's not noted just by me. We belong to Tri-State Fire Mutual Aid, which consists of Mass, Vermont, New Hampshire, and area departments. And we create run cards or alarm cards. So if something happens, maybe we're tied up on another call, our dispatch will know how to dispatch or who to dispatch where. I don't have the number of towns, but of all them towns in that tri-state region, Bernardston is on 28 of them towns. So it's not just something I'm talking about, our firefighters are good and aggressive. These other towns think so too. And they have us on their first or second alarms because they know they're getting a good, talented crew. They know they're getting aggressive crews. They know they're getting some good equipment. And they know when we get called, we're going to come and do our job, and we're going to go home. So again, I thank our young, aggressive firefighters for being what they are. And we're not just talking Leiden. We're talking Greenfield, Turners Falls, Brattleboro, Gill, Northfield. We go to Charlemont. We've been all over the place. And they're not calling us just for the sake of it. They're calling us because we're a good group and we do our job well.
Okay, yes.
I'm Charlene Cloutier from 19 Dean Road. I have a couple questions. I wasn't able to go to the meeting last night. Did the fire truck, brush truck pass? Or did they approve to go for that, yes? Yes. Okay, and how many fire trucks do we currently have?
We currently have 5.
Okay, so I see 7 bays, so I was curious why it was so big. And my third question is, if somebody could explain how the Proposition 2.5 figures into that 40 cents increase. I don't know much about that, so.
If the voters pass the exemption, then we would calculate the tax rate on everything that was voted last night, and then we would compare that to what we're allowed to pay under 2.5, and then we would add the fire station. So you would see it as one rate, but the fire station payments would not count as we approach the 2.5 limit. It would not increase our 2.5 limit. If we were to buy, an ice cream truck to run around town and pay for it over 3 years and exempt it from the tax rate, when those 3 years were over, the highest amount that you could charge under 2.5 would fall back to the 2.5 limit. I'm not explaining this well. Question?
It's better than when I had no clue.
Okay, it gets added to the rate. When it's paid off, it comes off the rate. Okay?
Yeah, thank you.
All right.
Okay, yeah, Kelton.
Kelt Grant, Church Street. I have an additional question. I'm wondering if this facility, expanded facility, is big enough to accommodate the vehicles that are currently parked outside.
No. One of them would go inside, the big red trailer which houses our UTV And some of our rescue equipment, that would be stored inside, but the green and silver trailers would still be stored outside. In the parking lot? In the parking lot.
Okay.
Steve Neston Power, 10 Dewey again. Chief, if 62% of the calls are for medical emergencies, which are covered at the present time, we are reimbursing Northfield EMS for those services. Can you envision a revised firehouse that would cost 38% of what the 2.4 million proposed firehouse is now?
I guess the simplest answer to that is no. And with some clarification, we do not reimburse Northfield Ambulance. We pay them a $10,000 flat fee that's supposed to be earmarked to go towards their ambulance replacement. So each year we'll give them $10,000 towards it, and somebody correct me, I think it's a 7-year program they have in their ambulance replacement. Any fees collected from the ambulance crew goes directly to the ambulance. We do not get a dime of that.
So 60.
Okay, no, got it.
Okay, sorry. So 62% of your activity is covered, A, by the $10,000 we reimburse for their services. Why do you need such a large firehouse if only 38% of your calls are for fires?
Again, it's still mostly room. We need the room around the bigger trucks to get in and out and move. We need the bathroom facilities that are required. We need the showers.
But you need as much equipment if only 30% of your activities is fire-related.
It's still the same number of people in the station. We still respond with a fire department vehicle to go to these calls.
But if you only have 38% activity fire-related, why do you need such a large facility?
Our men respond to the medical emergencies, and they get there before the ambulance does. Sometimes they call and tell the ambulance, we don't need you, we've taken care of this. So our men are going out on those calls also.
No.
Some of them calls are also...
No, you've had 3 times. Okay, so does anybody else want to participate? Yes.
Street, 2 things. Jane, can you actually give, did you say 40 cents per $1,000 of valuation or 100,000?
100.
So for someone whose house is worth $200,000, what will their tax increase be a year?
80 cents.
That's right. So.
Well, wait a minute.
I thought it was 80 cents.
No, I'm sorry, I turned to the wrong page. I don't want to lead you astray. I did the calculations on a $2.5 million loan, and I did the calculations on a $3 million loan. On $2.5 million loan, it would be 53 cents per 100,000.
So if your house is worth $200,000, your tax bill would go up $1.06?
$1.60 based on all the numbers that I have today.
Yep, okay. So I think that puts a little more real.
And if it's $3 million,
yeah.
if we have to borrow every single penny of that, which I don't think we will, it would be 64 cents per 100,000, $1.32.
Okay.
For a $200,000 house.
I think that might give some perspective to what we're talking about here. that puts it real as to what it's gonna cost people here. It's
Less than a
very
gallon a
small
milk.
amount. Secondly, it only takes one fire to need one fire truck. The percentages that are being talked about for EMT services, I don't think are relevant. Secondly, as someone who has had the need for EMT services, fire was there first, and they were like guardians as, until you're there and you see them in action, just knowing that they're there for you and they see you through the whole bit was an amazing thing that you'll forever have our support for. It just hit home. You did nothing in the sense of the medical revival, but you were there first and you all came and you just stayed until it was time to leave. We support it. I wish we could just vote and support it now. Everybody knows the dollar amount it's going to cost you. It's a silly little amount for a huge safety thing. That's it.
Hi, Jill Streeter, Martindale Road. Just looking for clarification on the tax rate. And I don't know much about this, so forgive me. But what I'm seeing currently is and this is maybe an outdated number, but the number for Bernardston is roughly $20 per thousand, not 100,000. So just looking for clarification that the 40 cents is per thousand, not per 100,000. It may be helpful to do a real life example if that's possible. Thank you.
Hey, Ron, did you?
Our current tax rate is $18.57 a thousand. Our current tax rate is $18.57 per thousand. That is on $4,389,000 plus. Not gonna get down to the pennies.
Thank you, Ron Fulton, 46 Fox Hill. I'm very much in favor of this new station. My real question is, once we paid for the new station, and you have 4 new bays in there, how are we going to pay to put trucks in there? And how much more is that going to cost? I'm still in favor of the station, but I'm just curious about the follow-on expenses. Thank you.
We have addressed that with a joint meeting with the Selectmen and the Finance Committee. Correct me if I'm wrong, we were supposed to replace our 1991 engine this year. The fire department did agree with the station and everything else that we could sort of live with that and put it off. The vehicle's still running good, trustworthy. We'll keep trying to run it as long as we can. We've also been looking into used vehicles to try to help assist with the cost of replacing the fire trucks. The biggest difference here, we buy a used fire truck, we're not going to get 20 or 24 years out of it. So, I mean, there is a trade-off. It's a lot cheaper, but it's surely not going to last as long in the long run as what a brand-new truck would cost.
Truck? Are we going to have 7 vehicles?
No.
Okay.
We may have 6, but there won't be 7, because there will not be room to put them anywhere, so.
Yeah, we can't.
Speaking to the tax rate, payment, you're right. I can't tell you. I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
Yeah, is this microphone on?
Okay, can you hear me now?
No, it's not on. Here, you can use this one, Phil. Right to the top.
Brenda Hill, Brattleboro Road. I think, Jane, you're right, because if you're going to borrow $3 million and you're borrowing it over 40 years, that's $75,000 just for the principal payment per year. That's nothing. So I think she's right without actually doing the calculations.
I have the calculations in front of me. You want to look at them?
No, that's fine, but I just wanted to, I was just
I mean
trying
to verify.
Great, okay.
The actual principal plus interest payment on 3 million at 2.25%, the $114,532.13. Our tax rate is less than 0.5 cent per thousand. So move the decimal point over and divide by 2, and you'll be too high on that.
Right. Okay. Just wanted to give you some support there.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Secondly, you talk about how many bays there might be in the new fire station. I work for the South Deerfield Fire District, and I know nothing about the trucks, except that you're going to have a brush truck, you're going to have a ladder truck, you're going to have a rescue truck, right, Pete? And so
No ladder truck.
Okay, but regardless, the number of bays, you need to have a little extra because we grow. We continue to grow. And why not plan for the future instead of for just right now? That's it.
Yeah. Okay. Chris?
I'm actually going to, I don't think my mic is working. Oh, okay. I'm going to speak as the planning board chair. We looked at these plans already, actually when it was more of an initial stage, and we liked the plan. We agreed with it as the planning board. The other thing is, in support of the fire department personally, we've been doing some resilient or some multi-hazard mitigation plan and working on our vulnerability. And one of the problems that we have in our town that's very vulnerable, we're 80% woodland. And with the chances of having a drought again, like we did last year, it intensifies the possibility of some wildfires. And there was a couple last year, one in Leverett and one in the Tully area in Orange. And so we're very vulnerable to fire out in our woodlands, and trying to get there is going to be very difficult because the accessibility to those areas is very limited. So I feel very strongly that we need to make sure our men, our firefighters, are protected and have all the gear that they need to be able to get out to those areas.
Okay, anybody else? Yeah, I think we're at the point now where I'm going to ask. At this point, we're going to have a vote on the motion. We'll start by a voice vote. I will let you know whether I feel that I can even determine whether there's a 2/3 vote, and if I can't, then we're going to move on to a ballot. Yes, Steve.
I would like to propose that we eliminate the hand vote and have a private vote, a ballot vote.
Okay, as to fixing the method of voting, if 7 people request that we vote by ballot, then we will. So I'm going to ask if there are 7 people who, okay, why don't you stand up? Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, we have 7. So by the request of seven voters, we are going to vote by secret ballot. So you have your card. It says yes or no. In this case, a vote yes will be a vote to appropriate or to vote to borrow or otherwise provide for a sum up to $3 million exactly as set forth in the article. Vote no, obviously, will be against that. So with that in mind, I'll ask you to take your ballots and mark yes or no, and then hand them in to the counters. Okay.
He starts lining up. I think we're going to do this by section, okay, so that we are orderly about this. I will come to each section and have you come up and drop your ballot. The ballot box is up here at this table, and you will slide your ballot in, and then afterwards our registrars will take care of counting the ballots.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I miss my neighbor, but you know, where are you living now?
South Street.
Yeah. Well, we should catch up sometime. Good. Okay, if we can come back into session. Okay, if you could take your seats so we can continue. The sooner you do that, the sooner we may be out of here. Okay, with respect to Article 36, the results of the vote are as follows. In favor of the Article 62, opposed to the Article 22. So I declare that two-thirds at least two-thirds have voted in favor of it, and therefore the article passes. However, that at least for some of you is the good news. The bad news is that more people have been thinking about these figures that we've been discussing, and I think it turns out that, and Jane, maybe you want to speak on a loan of $3 million over 40 years at 2.25% interest. The results are not quite as minimal as you may have been led to believe. So why don't, Jane, if you or one of the selectmen can report on that.
My mic on? Yes. Jane, Mike, you going to speak?
Go ahead.
Jane reported that it would be 48 cents for 100,000, per 100,000. That is wrong. It's per thousand. So that changes what you voted on. So now we're going to have to reconsider this, how you feel about this thing now. And we tried to stop people from leaving because we didn't want people to leave there and think that we were just trying to pull a fast one on them. So, and if you are looking at the loan, would probably be about $75,000 a year. That would add 37 cents to the tax rate. And that's the best way. I can't calculate it any further than that because I'm not an Einstein, and maybe Jane can butt into that. Yeah?
$3 million over 40 years at 2.25% is an annual payment of $114,532.13. And we calculated this and didn't write it down.
What do you need, Jim?
That number is what would have to be paid each year. And our current tax rate works out to be 0.42 of a cent, less than half a cent, per thousand. So if you multiply $114,532 by half a cent, to make it easy, you got what?
48.1 cents, Jim.
I get 48 cents, and that's what I told you, right?
So 48 cents per thousand.
Per thousand.
There's 114,000. Is that what you multiplied
This
by?
is the same calculation we did a minute ago.
Okay. So it's 48 cents per thousand. I don't think that's right.
So that would mean that the person who asked the question about the $200,000 home, their tax rate would be affected $100. So it's not nothing. It's a $100 increase.
That's not right.
I'm sorry, whoever's speaking in the back, I can't hear you.
Jill Streeter, Martindale Road. I don't have any numbers in front of me, but it just doesn't sound quite right. The current rate, I forget what you said, $18.44, maybe $18.44 per thousand, something near there. So if it was $18.50 per thousand previously, just rounding that number, means it'd be $18.90-ish per thousand now. So $100 does not mathematically make sense to me as a taxpayer.
Well, okay, I mean, we're talking about the accuracy of the figure or the desirability of it.
I'm talking about the accuracy of it.
Okay, well, I'm just...
It just seems like there's some confusion. So.
Well, I know there's confusion.
Yes.
But if you have 48, it's 48 cents per thousand, correct? Multiply 48 cents by 200.
114,000, forget this.
Yeah, this is what we did last time.
And what do you get?
114.
No, just 114. That's how many thousands.
Yeah, 200 times 48 cents.
So if you own a home in this town that's worth $200,000, what do you currently pay at the 18 rate, and what would your new bill be at the new rate? I think that would be helpful. And maybe it's right. I don't have the numbers in front of me. It's hard to comprehend for someone sitting without it.
You'd be paying about $4,000 a year. If you had a $200,000 home at $20 a thousand, right? It's $4,000 a year, which means every half year you pay $2,000.
Yep.
If you own a $600,000 house, it's going to be 3 times that.
About 40 cents on that rate would be $100 a year.
Right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, please go.
Steve Neston Power, 10 Dewey again. We're focusing on the increase for solely the new fire station. What we're forgetting about is yesterday's meeting where there were added expenses. So whatever those cost, now we also have to add tonight's increases. So it's just not straight $19.47 plus an additional 48 cents, which comes out to $18.95. We also have to consider the increases we voted for, like the $167,000 increase for the operating budget for the school committee plus the others. And I'd like to know what that figure is as well.
Figure, and any figures I give you are my personal estimates. The assessors are the ones that got to do the filing with the state, and the state comes back and tells us what the rate is. I try to make an educated guess to the best of my personal ability, and that's what this is, and I sincerely apologize for saying $100,000 when I meant 1,000. I didn't even hear myself. And my neighbor tried to tell me, and I didn't listen. So it's $48 per thousand, 48 cents per thousand for a $4 million loan.
Okay, so let me explain where we are procedurally. Article 36 has been voted and has been approved by a vote of over 2/3 of the voters, and therefore passes. At this point, the only thing that's going to change that is if somebody files or makes a motion for reconsideration of that vote. And it'll be on your honor that the person who makes such a motion for reconsideration is expected to be somebody who originally voted in favor of it. And based upon this change, wishes to have it reconsidered. If such a motion is made and seconded, then it will be put to a vote. If a majority of the voters want it reconsidered, then we go back. If a majority doesn't want it to be reconsidered, it stays. So that's where we are now. Unless I get a motion for reconsideration and a second, we're done with this article. Yes, sir.
Roger Slocum, West Road. I'd like to reconsider. It seems like there's a lot of confusion. Can't we get everything on paper and then reconsider at a different time?
Well, I mean, yeah, we're not going to, I would say it's fair to say it's not going to happen tonight, at least at the rate we're going, I think. So. Well, you know, it ain't over till it's over. So yes, in the back.
Hi, Anne Marie Howard, Huckle Hill Road. This question is also on the ballot. How does that affect the whole outcome of this?
On, okay, if Monday during the election, if the 2.5% exclusion vote is voted down, then this fails. This is done.
So
if people vote for it, then this would go through.
So there's another opportunity for people to vote. Correct. Okay.
Okay, so I tell you, we have a motion for reconsideration, but at this point it has not been seconded. I second it. Okay, we have a motion made and seconded to reconsider the vote that's just been taken. So, anybody want to be heard? Yes.
Justin Duncan, Fox Hill Road, which needs a four-wheel drive truck, which we do have. I was selectman in the early part of this century when we had a condemned police station, literally condemned, and the town took 2 years before we could decide to build another one. I feel it's the same situation here. I think the fire department's close to being condemned, and we have to do something about it. And this is what it is. The selectmen, finance committee, done a great job. And fire department, they've researched it. They got the best numbers they possibly could. They got rejected once before. They came back with new numbers. I'm all in favor of supporting it. Thank you.
Okay, anybody else wish to be heard? Okay, this motion for reconsideration is by a majority vote. Therefore, I'm going to ask at this point, all in favor of the motion for reconsideration relative to Article 36, please say aye. Aye. All opposed? No. The noes have it. Therefore, the vote on Article 36 remains in effect, and we'll move on to Article 37. Article 37 is non-binding. A discussion and citizen suggestions regarding needed renovations to town-owned buildings.
Mr. Moderator.
Yes.
We asked to pass over Article 37. That was put in there in case Article 36 did not pass.
Yeah, they can't hear you.
I'm sorry. I'm asking that we pass over Article 37. That was put in there in case Article 36 did not pass. We could have a discussion on how we could go forward with that building. So at this point, I'd ask that we pass over.
Okay. Any objection? Okay. Some people are voting with their feet, so. Okay, motion to adjourn. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, we're adjourned. Thank you.